Ultimatum actually with my wife yesterday, and there was a moment on there that it was like funny, like watching it, and so it was when Raya was talking to I can never remember the dude's name, but Lisa's Lisa's boyfriend. Raya was like talking to him about like her spending and stuff, and basically she was like, "Yeah, like I have problem or like I love to spend money." And she was talking about her credit card spending, and she was like, "If it don't decline, I'm fine." And so I started laughing about it, and then I realized I was like, "Wait a second. Like that's actually me." I feel like in the past I've talked about how I've had issues with controlling my spending and giving into retail therapy and all of those things as well just because I've been stressed out. But hearing it put that way, I'd never thought about it from that perspective, but hearing her say that made me realize that I was justifying spending money the exact same way. Like I would always look at, okay, how much money do I have on my credit card? And that would allow me to kind of justify like, okay, should I buy this or not? And not necessarily, okay, how much do I have in my bank account? Like, oh, even if I decide to buy this, can I actually pay this off? And that has got me in a lot of turmoil and just a lot of stress essentially throughout my life. And so I think hearing her say that kind of shifted something in my brain chemistry to the point where, excuse me, to the point where I was just kind of like, holy cow, that's real, because it's something that I thought I had beaten, like I had shaken it off. I thought, oh, well, that's the old me. I don't struggle with that stuff anymore. But yeah, it gets so easy to get caught up in these cycles of, okay, well, if I have enough money to get it on my credit card, like, work has been stressful or school's been stressful and I deserve this. And so we go ahead and we buy these things and it feels good in the moment, but then it only stresses us out in the long run. And so I also just think because of the day and age that we live in, it's easier than ever to spend money, whether you're looking at, because of Apple Pay, because of one click to purchase, the fact that we can save our credit card on all these websites. It's made it so convenient to just buy things and to not even think about it. When before you had to have cash on you. So you physically had to take out money and like count it up and then spend that money. Or you even had to take out a checkbook and like write a check or whatever. But now with credit cards and with how easy it's gotten to spend money, half the time I'm thinking about, okay, A, is my card gonna go through? B, oh, I'm gonna get some points for this anyway, so it's kind of worth it because I'm working towards something. And in the process of doing all that, we end up spending so much more money than we should because we're convincing ourselves of the upside, the potential upside in the future. And what we don't realize is when we're spending money like this without really thinking about the long term repercussions of spending money that we don't have, it ends up stressing us out in the long run. Because I've been in this position where it's like, okay, we're spending money we don't have, and then all of a sudden later, when it comes time to pay for the credit card or whatever, and we don't have the money to cover it, now we're paying interest on all those purchases that we shouldn't have made. And so then it just ends up getting to a point where we end up being more stressed than anything because we made those poor decisions. And it'll feel good in the meantime, like in the short term, because you're getting the shoes or you're getting the clothes or you're getting whatever, but in the long run it'll stress you out. And so I see Lewis on here saying hi, what's going on? I hope you're having a good day so far. And so, yeah, I've just kind of been chilling and, just kind of talking about, trying to um, control, my spending and everything. And so I see Smoke on here is saying, how do you budget to help yourself? Honestly, that's a great question. I would say it's something I'm still trying to figure out. My wife and I will like sit down and kind of budget and like look at, okay, like, what money's going where in terms of trying to pay things off. But I think really what's been helping me a lot is to think, okay, if there's something that I'm thinking about buying, I have to think about, okay, is this something that I can afford, number one, but is this something that I'm going to regret buying in the long term? And this is something that I am still battling myself. And this is why, like, I love social media because we can all talk to each other and we can all work on this together. Because one of the things that's been messing me up lately is I love shoes. And so I feel like I'll get in this habit of spending money just because something is on sale and not necessarily because I need it. And so another thing that I would also recommend and something I've been doing more of lately is I've been getting to a point of trying to focus more on being grateful for everything that I have, but also finding joy in things that don't involve me spending a lot of money, right? So when you think about, for example, I was talking about how I love shoes. So I'm a big Yeezy fan. I love the designs. Of course, I don't necessarily support a lot of the things that he said, that Ye has said, but in terms of sneaker design, I love the designs of Yeezys. And because of that, I feel like I've gotten into this mind state of like, oh no, I feel like I need to buy these shoes because, yeah, people know me as a sneakerhead and I love these shoes. Or like, for example, I love Lululemon. So same thing where I'll get into this mindset of, oh, I feel like I should buy this clothes just because I love it and all of that stuff. And so, um, I see what you're. That's a good point. Do you think late stage capitalism has contributed heavily to more impulse purchases, and does it scare you? Um, Honestly, I would say by late stage capitalism, do you mean like essentially the invention of like credit cards and things like that, or not the invention of, but like with Apple Pay and with, I guess, with pricing? Is that what you're talking about by late stage capitalism? But I would say in general, impulse purchases I think have been tough, but I try not to give into that stuff too often. Like for example, even when it comes to like online purchases, I try not to get too caught up in the moment in terms of, oh my goodness, like this shirt is super dope, I have to buy it. Instead of like getting caught up in the moment, if I see a shirt that's really dope or whatever, I'll take some time usually to think about it, even like with Yeezys and stuff like that. Like usually with my Yeezys, I would get them like on eBay since they have the authenticity guarantee and you can make offers to sellers. So sometimes what I would do is I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna think about it. And then if I decide to do it, I'll make an offer to a seller. And then if they accept it, cool, like, we can go from there. But also if they don't accept it, that's cool too. And so I think it's not like Amazon where, with eBay it's like, okay, well you have to buy something and wait probably a week or two for it anyway. It's not like Amazon where it's like, oh, well you get it and then like sometimes the same day or 2 days later you have it. And so I think yeah, honestly I think impulse purchases. Actually, I would say the place impulse purchases probably get me the most is the grocery store. Because I would say it gets so easy for me to like, if I'm at the grocery store after the gym and I'm already kind of hungry, the likelihood of me buying like five more things than I intended to buy just because I'm like, oh well, these chips look good or these snacks look pretty good or whatever is definitely much higher. But one thing I started doing lately, and one thing I just have to be more consistent of, is making a shopping list before I go to the grocery store and sticking to that shopping list. Because that's something that like people have told me before in the past, but it's something that I've never really taken it to heart in terms of like remembering like, oh okay, well I actually should do this. It's something I'll remember and I'll like do it for a couple weeks and then I'll stop. Because half the time I think I get paranoid that if I make a shopping list and I only stick to what's on the shopping list, I get paranoid that I'll forget everything that I'll like forget to buy a few things. So then I end up like walking through the store, whatever, through certain aisles that I have no business being in, and then I'll end up buying things that I didn't necessarily intend on buying. And so that's kind of where sometimes I get cooked. Or if I'm at like, I guess the other place impulse purchases will get me is if I'm at like an outlet mall or something. So like for example, I of course like I mentioned I love Lululemon, and so if I'm ever at a Lululemon outlet, most of my Lulu that I have I got on sale, and I also used to work for them. Fun fact. So I worked for them for like a summer, and then I got a ton, like fair amount of Lulu, I guess like with my discount. But I would say if I'm ever at the outlet for Lulu, it's definitely a lot more tempting to impulse buy because I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I just came in to get some shorts or whatever, but dang, like, this hoodie's like 40% off or whatever. And so then I'll end up like convincing myself to buy things that I didn't necessarily go in there for, if that makes sense. Because then I'm like, oh, well, these are on sale. I feel like I should buy them anyway. And so, smoke underscore Hogan says, but I do think that the prices of groceries have gone up in a crazy way. Also, there is shrinkflation in products you would normally buy only one of. Yes, yes, I see what you're saying for sure. Yeah, I think the price of groceries going up has definitely played a role because with the price of groceries going up, it's made it get to a point where you're like, okay, well, if I buy like five things or whatever, before that used to cost me like $30 and now it's costing me $45. And then you couple that with like gas prices being crazy expensive right now. So now we end up being in this situation where people are already stressed because everything is more expensive. And now I think what that has also led to is now people are coping with that stress in unhealthy ways. Whether that means now people are just eating out more now because they're like, okay, well, if me buying my own food to cook is too expensive, I may as well just eat out all the time. And so, of course, that's taken a toll on health and everything like that as well. And so, just in general, with the increased stress as well, it's taken a toll on our health. Because one thing I've noticed from work, just from being burnt out in general, when you're burnt out and when you're exhausted from work, not only can you not make legit decisions, but it takes such a toll on you mentally and emotionally. And so, I think with inflation, with everything going up like crazy, and making things more expensive, it's made it more expensive to try to eat healthier. So people aren't eating healthy anymore the way that they should be. It's made it more convenient almost to just not eat healthy at all. And I would say that has led to the increase probably in credit card debt. And when you look at inflation and where that's going, of course, wages aren't going up to meet that rise in inflation either. So you have rent going up, gas going up, food going up, and all of these things as well. And so I think that's something that plays a huge role in those things. And so, smoke underscore Hogan saying, in the future, would you like to be a financial freedom coach? What is your dream? Honestly, it's kind of funny that you say that. So, when I was in dental school, actually, I got my license for life insurance, and I was gonna do that while I was in school, but then I ended up just not having the time for it, and then actually I was thinking about like pivoting out of dentistry just because I was super burnt out. And so I actually had interviewed with Northwestern Mutual to be like a financial advisor. And so I actually love that stuff. And so even like when I was in college, I got a minor in business and I really enjoyed that stuff. So I've always loved finances, and even at one point with this channel, I thought about shifting it like in like a financial direction where I talked about index funds and stocks and different things like that. And I still might, but I think that would probably be a certain part of the channel and not the whole channel. if that makes sense, because I've also loved the idea of kind of personal development and kind of helping all of us to get better, whether it's mentally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's helping with burnout. Because lately, that's something that I've become really passionate about because I've been dealing with burnout myself. And so for me, I'm really just trying to figure out, okay, how can I help people who are burnt out? How can I help people who have lost themselves, whether they've lost themselves in work, whether they've lost themselves in friendships or relationships, or, just the daily grind of trying to get after a bag, like people that have lost themselves. Some I'm really passionate about right now is how can I help those people? Because, especially because that's something that I have dealt with myself, I know that there's a lot of people that are dealing with the same exact thing where they have lost themselves, they've lost that childlike joy. And so, because of that, they've started coping by doing things that they shouldn't, whether they've started spending more money, they have, God forbid, gotten depressed and all of these things. And so, yeah, I would say that's what I'm passionate about right now. Of course, I think index funds, I think all of these things are really cool as well, and it's definitely something that I want to do. But yeah, I would say my dream would be to, I'd say honestly, probably create content full time. I would love to do something like this full time, where I'm creating content, I'm talking to you guys, I'm, you know, making an impact. Because don't get me wrong, like being a dentist is a blessing and it's great, but it can be hard on your body, number one. Um, Number two, I think it's just one of those things where I've always loved the idea of having multiple streams of income. And I think something that with quarantine back in 2020, all that stuff that happened, it really taught me about the importance of having other streams of income, because having a job, having two jobs, there's nothing that says that you can't get laid off from them out of nowhere. And so I want to put myself in a position where no matter what happens, I'll be okay. I want to be in a position where, okay, yeah, like I'm working this job, I'm doing this thing, but if something happens, like I'm still solid. And so, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think finances are definitely just super cool, and I think learning about all of that stuff is something that I'm also really interested in. And so we'll see. Maybe the direction that this channel will take over time is maybe there will be a sector of it that kind of talks about finances and the importance of investing. And that's something also that I'm still trying to apply for myself. I think, as I mentioned before, being a dentist is a blessing for sure, but the burnout and everything, I think, is also real. I think the student loans are real. The things that you take on as a result of just trying to better yourself, I think it gets extremely difficult. And so, um, yeah, I think people can look at, oh well, like, oh, you're a dentist or like whatever, and like you're doing, and it's like, yeah, like it's cool and it's a blessing for sure, but there's there's a struggle that I think everyone's dealing with. And I think that's what's so beautiful about social media, is the community that you can build on here. And so I see you also said, do you think side hustle culture has started to heavily contribute to burnout? For sure. Yeah, yeah. I think I actually just made a video talking about how I went for a walk this morning, and during that walk I started thinking about how it was so beautiful because I was just listening to music and I didn't feel the need to be, oh my goodness, I need to be listening to an audiobook or a podcast, or I need to listen to something to help me plan this video that I'm going to post later or whatever. It just allowed me to be present. And I think this side hustle culture has definitely heavily contributed to burnout. And I would say probably also played a role in my burnout, where I felt like if I was home and I wasn't at work, I felt like I needed to either be working on content or I needed to be thinking of ideas to help me with this content. And if I wasn't doing that, I felt like I just wasn't maximizing my time and I felt like I wasn't being productive. And so, as you guys can see, like even on my channel, like for a little bit there, I didn't post. And it's like, it's not like, oh, I decided I was going to take a vacation. It's just that I straight up just wasn't posting. And I think it got difficult because in my head, I started to think, oh my goodness, like I'm not posting. I feel like I should be. And it really even started to affect my life in terms of hanging out with my wife, in terms of hanging out with my friends, hanging out with my family, where even if we were hanging out, let's say if I met up with them in like the afternoon, like my friends or whatever, if I didn't get any work done in the morning or didn't get any brainstorming or planning done, I'd feel like, man, I already haven't gotten much done today. And now I'm going to get home and it's going to be late and I'm going to be whatever. And so I'd instantly just start thinking about how I had almost, in a way, like taken an L for the day, where like I felt like, man, yeah, like I'm getting to see people. Yes, I'm spending time with my wife. That's great. That's amazing. But I feel like, excuse me, but I'm like, dang, like I could have gotten this done. I could have worked more towards this. And it reminded me of when I was in dental school, I used to have that same mentality where even if I wasn't studying after school, I felt like I should have been studying. And so because of that, whenever I was, and of course like there's plenty of times where you're not studying, but during those times I wasn't studying, I felt like I couldn't enjoy myself as much because I felt like, oh no, like I definitely should be studying right now. And the fact that I'm not studying isn't good. And so, what I noticed was the toll that it took on me mentally was to the point where when I actually started studying, I'd already felt mentally exhausted because it was almost like even when I was hanging out or doing whatever, I felt like mentally it was almost as though I was studying because I was thinking about, oh, well, tomorrow I have this going on, the after I have this going on. And so we can do the same thing when it comes to side hustles as well, where we get into this mode of like, okay, well, if I'm not grinding towards that thing, then by the time you actually start working on it, mentally you're already kind of fatigued. And so, what I've learned over time is it is important to build rest into your schedule and to give yourself that time to go get a workout in, to go enjoy yourself, to go, hang out with your friends, your family, and things like that. And so, you also were saying having hobbies that don't financially carry you are important because it's something personal, something real. Very true. Very true. I was actually having a conversation like that with my wife too, because we were talking about how it gets easy to think like, oh, every single thing you do for fun has to make you money. Like if you're reading a book, you should try to write a blog post on it, or you should try to do a podcast episode on it, or you should try to record content on it. Basically, what I've noticed from this, from thinking like this, is that it doesn't really get you far. It doesn't really. I'm sorry, I think I was getting a call, so it might have blocked out some of my answer. But basically, what I was saying was so I was talking to my wife, and so um, basically, we were talking about how it can get easy to feel like even if you're reading a book, even if you're, listening to music, everything has to be content. So if you're reading a book, oh, well, you have to make, a blog post or a podcast episode or a YouTube video on it. And so we get into this way of thinking where we feel like if we're not making content from something we're doing, we almost start to think it's a waste of time, which definitely isn't the way to be thinking. Because even for a little bit on my channel, I wanted to do like music reviews and stuff. And so I'd be like listening to songs and thinking about, okay, what am I gonna talk about? What does this line remind me of? And the thing is, what I noticed is, yes, it's fun to do it here and there, but I think if that becomes your job, it becomes hard to really enjoy listening to music. Just like how if you become like a book reviewer, it becomes hard to really enjoy, um, you know, reading books. It's the same thing like if you go for a walk and like you just enjoy it and you're in nature and you really get to embrace your surroundings and you can really enjoy it. But if you're like a walking influencer or something where you record every single one of your walks and it turns into this big thing, then yeah, it becomes really hard to really enjoy your walks because now something that should be giving you leisure turns into something that you're doing for clicks in a way where it becomes your job. Same thing like with even running or working out, where if these things turn into your job where you're constantly making content, when you're running or when you're at the gym, it gets hard to really lock in and to be in the moment and to be present because it turns into your job at that point. And so like you were saying, that's why it's so important to have hobbies that don't pay you money. Hobbies that you can just go do and you're not pressed. You're not worried about like, oh, what can I make from this? How could this benefit me financially? You're just focused on just being in the moment. And so you're also saying, I think these lives, these open talk spaces really help people because when last did people just chill and talk or have a sit down with some serious or honest topics? It's community. Yeah, definitely. 100%. And that's why I really feel like these live videos are really cool because it allows people to just like click on and just like, pop in, say what's up, and that's something that we're missing because yeah, of course, like with YouTube it's cool to just like post a video on there and it's there and people can watch it and comment on it, but there's something about like a live interaction and they're just kind of on there and we can just have a conversation, we can talk and there can be dialogue. And so yeah, that's why like I started my school community and I haven't posted too much on there as of late, but I definitely want to start posting more on there because I think community is extremely important. Because I was even talking about one of my homies, or I was talking to one of my homies this past weekend, and we were talking about how we're thinking about like starting a podcast just to, you know, for that same reason, just to kind of help, check in with people and to see how people are doing. Because I think in this day and age, especially, for me as a man, like we were talking about how we tend to hold a lot of things in. We might be going through things, but we just don't ever really feel like we can talk to anybody about it. And so, especially with June being Men's Mental Health Month, we were also talking about that, just how important it is to use social media as a medium for checking in with people to make sure that everyone's doing okay. I think social media has become such a place where people just kind of flex, where it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I have this perfect morning routine. I have this perfect nighttime routine. Oh, I drink this like perfectly curated matcha that is just like picture perfect and everything. And oh, all these girls have like lip filler, whatever the case. And so social media has almost just become this place where everything has to be perfect. And another thing I love with these live videos is they're very imperfect. You guys are going to hear me stutter sometimes. You guys are going to hear me, trip over my words. There's going to be some pauses, but I think that's what's beautiful. I think there's something to be said about the beauty and just the purity of just like real content that's not, picture perfect all the way through with the perfect thumbnail, perfect title, perfect B-roll, everything being perfect. I think there's something about just the realness of just genuinely connecting with people. And so yeah, I think that's what's beautiful about it. And I want to make social media a place where people can just come and connect and just be people again. I think, like, for example, even though yes, I'm a Christian, I think the same thing has kind of happened with Christian, content on social media. I think it's turned into something where people, I feel like, make their lives seem so perfect. Like, oh, I don't struggle with porn. I don't struggle with this. I've conquered this. And it's like, yeah, like that's cool. But at the same time, like, but what are you struggling with? I think it's important that as humans that we be transparent about our struggles. And that's why, like in this video, I talked about me being transparent with how I've struggled with spending and things like that in the past. Or even now, honestly, like I'm still trying to work on being better with it. And so I think that's what makes us human, and not me just coming up here being like, oh, I have, $500,000 saved and I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I have a Roth IRA that I max out and a 401k. Like, I just don't think that's, I think there's something beautiful about going on social media and being like, fam, like, I struggle with X, Y, and Z, but this is what I'm doing to try to work on that. There's something about the relatability of that I think transcends any kind of content about, oh, well, I have 17 credit cards. It all earn me travel points and I can, fly across the world for free, whatever. I think there's some about that. And so, Smoke underscore Hogan was also saying, I think the podcast would help inspire men to be open with each other, to have the tough talks. It could heal a lot of men in an emotional way. I agree. I agree 100%. I think there's something about that. I think that's really beautiful. I think there's something about that. I think they would give men like a safe space to open up and to feel comfortable talking about these things that they've struggled with in the past. And so I see Colton Burton had said, Christian, can you answer me like Christian is a thing? How would are you a preacher? Um I'm sorry, Colton. I think so. Are you saying like is Christianity a thing? I'm sorry. I guess you can clear that up if you're still on here. Um but yeah, Michael, what's going on? Yeah, it's crazy that you saw that I'm live right now too, but yeah, hope your day's going well, man. And so, yeah, but no, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just trying to stay consistent with this posting, and I just love this live kind of way of posting. So I feel like it just allows people to come on here to say whatever, and it's just a genuine vibe that's not, you know, I think something is with like AI and with all of this stuff nowadays, it's made it so easy for everything to be perfect, but in the process of things being perfect, we're missing that human to human kind of connection. And so I think social media could be a beautiful thing if it's used properly, where we can all connect with one another, and we can all just be transparent about things that we're struggling with. And not everything has to be about, oh, like I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I'm crushing it, I don't struggle with X, Y, and Z, I don't struggle with lust, I don't struggle with porn. I think my biggest goal with this is to have open dialogue and to be transparent about things that I struggled with, and to hopefully, inspire people as we're all working to get better. I think that's something that I found is so beautiful. And even whenever I think about music, I think about how sometimes a sad song can be beautiful, not because it's sad necessarily, but sometimes it can be beautiful because you know that someone has felt the way that you're feeling before, and so I hope that my content can be that for someone, where it's like they feel heard or they feel seen because I'm making content about something they felt before. Because yeah, I feel like in life it's not always about like, oh, I'm crushing it, I've done this, I've done that, I've made X amount of money, I've been quitting, I've quit X, Y, and Z and whatever. I think it's more so about just the journey. It's about the journey of, oh, well, yeah, like I did struggle with this one thing, but I've done X, Y, and Z to help myself with it. Yeah, like I haven't been the best with X, Y, and Z in the past, but I'm doing X, Y, and Z to get better with it. And so, yeah, yeah, man. But I hope your day's going well so far. Yeah, I was telling these guys here, like, just pretty much all that. I was kind of just summing it up, and um, I definitely just want to be more consistent with these lives, with these videos. I think they're a ton of fun for me to make, and yeah. So I hope that at least all of you guys are getting some value from this. But if you guys did get some value, if you guys stayed all the way through, I appreciate you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe as well. And like I'd mentioned before, like my school community is in the description below. I'm gonna try to start posting on there more consistently, just so that way we can have that sense of community and we can all grow and develop and become the best version and the happiest version of ourselves. And so yeah, you guys, I appreciate all of you, and until next time, have a good one. Oh, and real quick, you guys, before I leave here, yeah, I see the homie was talking about how what's been on the top of your mind. Yeah, AI is ruining things. I appreciate that you're bringing us together. Yeah, man, I've been in the weeds at work, just trying to improve, become better. Yeah, I mean, definitely, definitely. I think it gets so easy for us to get caught up in work and just the overall grind of you know of just the hustle of work, and that's why like this video, because the thing is, when you're caught up in the hustle and just the grind of work, it gets so easy to get burnt out, because now you're focused on, oh my goodness, like I'm trying to get to this bag, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And then in the process of that, we feel like either we're neglecting other parts of our life, whether that's physically, we're neglecting ourselves, mentally and emotionally, we're not giving ourselves space, we're not making time for our significant others. When that happens, now we go from feeling stressed out about work to just being stressed out about life in general. And that's where things get really difficult. And so, what I always tell people is learn to find enjoyment in your work, but also don't find too much identity in your work. Like, for example, for me, it's like, okay, well, yes, I'm a dentist, but for me, that's just what I do for work. It's not who I am. And the problem is, we live in a culture where too many people only identify as what they do for work. So they see themselves as a doctor or lawyer or, influencer, whatever, but they don't understand that there's a difference between who you are and what you do. And so yes, like I work on teeth for a living and all of that, but as a person, there's so much more to me than just what I do for work, if that makes sense. And so it's important to just keep in mind who you are as a human and to always make time for yourself as well. And so I hope that that answer was helpful, and I hope that it made sense. I'll definitely elaborate more on that though, in future videos as well. But I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in with me, and I hope you guys all stay blessed and that you guys have a great night.